Hi guys. As each week, I'm speaking to the MDs of Introlink's China, Japan, and Korea offices to speak about COVID-19 in the region and what it means for companies doing business in Asia. Alex, well, let's just jump straight to Shanghai. What's the situation in China?
Yeah, all good, thanks. The pollution's back in Shanghai, which obviously means the factories are back up and running. Not that's a good thing for us, but it's a good thing for business. No, so there's currently about 84,000 and a half cases in Shanghai, in China. Number of new daily cases is roughly the same as last week, so it's still in the single digits. We had 3 new cases today, and we've had less than 60 cases since last week. The good news is that the number of live cases nationwide are down by almost half since last week. So we've only got around 500 cases live across the whole country. 2 major changes since last week. First one is that there's been an announcement from the government for a date for the 2 sessions, which is the annual conveying of the top government officials in China. This was originally scheduled for March, but was cancelled. So this is really big news because it brings together the 5,000 top officials in China who are traveling from all across the country to go to Beijing. And obviously the government wouldn't do that if the situation isn't under control. Secondly, we have started to see a slight relaxation in the numbers of foreign travelers and border reopenings. The government's allowed a small number of permanent residents with green cards. So these are heads of big organizations, academics that live in China to return to China. And they've also started opening the borders to Korean business travelers, and they waived quarantine for Korean business travelers coming to China. We don't think that they'll do the same thing anytime soon for European and North American travelers, unfortunately, but it does give a glimmer of hope for everyone else. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do the same thing for countries further down the recovery like Australia and New Zealand in the next coming weeks.
Right. Thanks. That sounds really positive. Will, how's Japan? How's Golden Week?
Golden Week is very quiet. So as you know, there's a cluster of national holidays that becomes Golden Week and most companies are off. So yeah, everyone's sitting at home. And thankfully, Japan has been pretty good about this. Hats off, people didn't travel. The airports and railway stations have been like ghost towns. People have stayed at home. And the numbers are looking good. So, I mean, still there are 15,285 cases, 577 deaths, but the new daily cases last week when we spoke were about 150 to 200 per day. Yesterday there were 103 cases. So the cases are reducing. This is good. However, the government is being cautious. They don't want to rebound. So the period that the state of emergency, which is really voluntary stay at home, has been extended to the end of May. But the Prime Minister has also said, hey, if it looks like we can open up before then, we'll do that. So getting closer to normalcy. And yeah, a week off, Golden Week, who can complain about that?
Good stuff. Thanks, Will. John, how's Seoul in Korea?
Korea is good. So listen, each day the number of cases in the single digits. Life is very much back to normal here. In fact, I've just spent about 2.5 hours in a traffic jam coming back to Seoul for a meeting out in the countryside. So there's nothing surer than to show you that things are back to normal than a great big Seoul traffic jam. There are guidelines in place from the government with regard to the extended social distancing policies, but they are only guidelines. So nothing is mandated. We are wearing masks in the office just because I want to make sure that we are safe. But we are all, of course, back in the office now. We are going out to a lot of meetings now. And everything really is largely back to normal. We have the schools go back in a staged approach. Schools go back from next week. The high school guys go back next week, and really life is very, very much back to normal over here. So and there wasn't the spike that people feared on the back of the election a couple of weeks ago. So everything is doing very well here.
Good stuff, except for the traffic jams, I guess. I don't miss those, I can tell you that. All right, and in terms of business and in the implications, wider implications this has on tech and what you guys are seeing in each territory. Alex, what's the latest in Shanghai?
Well, after Golden Week, or the May Day weekend, as they call it here, obviously domestic consumption was given quite a boost. People flocked out, over 115 million trips were made, overall 6.5 billion US dollars was spent. So that's obviously still significantly under last year's expenditure, but it has given businesses some confidence that things are picking up again. It's welcome news for a lot of our clients that are supplying consumer goods or supplying components into consumer goods in China. And then secondly, we're also seeing a bit more trade shows and exhibitions either going ahead or announcing dates for their exhibitions. So this is really good news for companies that are relying on these types of events to showcase their products or meet new partners. Just as an example, we're going to CACLP, which is one of the largest in vitro diagnostics expos in China, in July for one of our clients, and obviously that really feels that things are getting back to normal.
That sounds really good. Thanks, Alex. What about Japan, Will?
Well, we're on holiday, but there've been a few interesting stories. One of the things that coronavirus can maybe, the silver lining, is that Japan is looking to get rid of the seal, the hanko, that is used in lieu of a signature. And this has been one of the blocks to people working from home, because without this seal on documents, certain things don't happen. So the government is pushing to move towards digital signing. Thank you, finally. Beyond that, getting very used to teleconferencing. It's really good to see Japanese companies just deal with it. Tomorrow, I have a teleconference with 4 people from our side. This is a personal care company in Japan. 15 people from the Japanese side. So it's going to take us the first half of the meeting just to introduce each other. But it's good to see that R&D is now on board with remote conferencing, and yeah, looking forward to a very filled Zoom conference tomorrow.
Thanks, Will. I wonder how business card exchanges are going to look on that call.
Funny you should mention that, because we really need to come up with a way for everyone to exchange cards, because if you don't swap cards, have you really met that person?
Right. Thanks, Will. Good stuff. And how's Korea, John?
Korea is doing very well. You know, I mentioned last week about one engagement that we've got in the kind of research and R&D materials field. Just to carry on from that, I mean, really what we are seeing, I think, is maybe it's a little bit strong to say a super cycle, but I do genuinely think that there is a very large wave of investment coming, both from public money and from private sector here as well in Korea, particularly into tech. So of course, you know, ed tech, you know, video conferencing, these kind of things are benefiting, but also materials. Just one interesting fact that caught my eye this week: Samsung's first quarter R&D spend was its highest in history in 2020. So you know, the money really is there, and I think that what you're really seeing is a lot of Korean companies wanting to take this opportunity to get out in front in the new, you know, new industries in energy, in particularly semiconductors, life sciences, biomed, these kind of areas. So they're really, really positive, really optimistic, and I think there's a lot of opportunities here for Western companies.
Sounds really good in all territories, really. All right, guys, thanks very much. We'll do this again, obviously, next week. And I hope to hear and learn more about Korea, China, and Japan in the coming weeks. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Feel free to reach out if you would like us to cover any particular topics, or if you have any questions about China, Japan, or Korea.